Hello, LinkedIn land. I'm Dr. Caroline Brookfield, and I apologize for being erratic with my hump day hypotheses on Wednesdays because sometimes I'm working as a veterinarian and it's hard to stream when you got a finger up a dog's butt. So for any of you who come into that recording on that note, hope I got your attention. What I wanted to talk today about was having a voice at work. And so whether you're an employee who feels like they can't share what they really think, or a manager who is really trying to draw some information out of your employees, there's a few things that I thought would be worth addressing. Firstly, why don't we want to share our ideas? Well, number one, it could be because we don't have any ideas, and that's where creativity and creative problem solving come in. The second thing is there's two major barriers. So the first one is that inner mean girl, that judgment of ourselves. So we often filter ideas out before we even have a chance to really even recognize that they are an idea. So we judge our own ideas so harshly that we don't express them. And then the second thing is we're fear judgment from others. So even if we have an idea that we think that might be kind of an interesting idea, but it's a bit different, we've never done that before, we avoid expressing it because we think everybody else is going to think it's a bad idea. And maybe they will. So one of the things that's helpful to do when we're wanting to stand out and speak up and try to change things is to really look at why we're afraid of sharing our ideas. Why do we judge our ideas so harshly? Because we're afraid of being judged by others. It's an outdated survival mechanism. When we were in tribes and, banging rocks together and looking for berries, we survived as a species because we lived in tribes and we helped each other. And if you got kicked out of the tribe because someone didn't like the way you made the grilled cheese sandwich that day, you would die of starvation, predation, exposure. And that instinct is so deeply ingrained in us. And because of our big human brains, our pace of evolution and change has outpaced our ability for instincts to change. So just like anything in life, it's important to look at things very objectively, which if you're a fan of Daniel Kahneman's work, thinking fast and slow, you realize that we don't think as objectively about things as we think we do. So what does that have to do with speaking out at work? When we speak out at work and want to share our ideas and stand up and be counted, we need to sit down and think, okay, why am I afraid of sharing this idea? Because I'm afraid of being judged, and realize what's the worst that could happen. I mean, I hope that you wouldn't get fired because you shared an idea that was a little unconventional. And if you did, it sounds like it's a good thing anyway. Speaking out and finding a way to be clear about what your idea is and how it may be executed can really help you stand out and be different. I remember a time when I worked for a corporation and we were giving a very high value presentation to a group, and the company had invested a significant amount of money in making this presentation happen. And with my background as a stand-up comedian and my ability to kind of jump in and try things and be willing to fail a little bit with adequate risk mitigation, I was amazed because one of the other people I worked with in the office who had come to give a portion of the presentation was clearly nervous and said to me, well, what if what we're presenting doesn't align with their company objectives? And I never even thought about it before. I thought, well, this is what we think is best. We spent a lot of time on this presentation and the thought we've put into, what we were presenting to that group. I thought, well, then we'll just learn. We'll learn and move on. And I think people think that things are so final. When I get up on stage and do a stand-up comedy set, it's terrifying. Yes, I'm scared, but I say to myself, okay, these are some random people in the audience. Even if it was a Queen of England and all of the prime ministers and presidents of the world, well, obviously I'd be a lot more nervous, but they're just people. And I'm up here doing a craft and doing my creativity and sharing what I think and my deepest personal self with the world. And it's terrifying, but what's the worst that's going to happen? People don't think about you as much as you think they do. So they're probably, let's say I bomb and nobody laughs, which has happened. Well, I didn't die. And they probably went home and thought nothing of it. If I bombed spectacularly, then it's a funny story that they share. And I'm willing to step into that failure and that chance of being seen as stepping out and falling, because I'd rather step out and fall than sit in the same room, quiet, not having anything to say. So those are my thoughts on this hump day hypothesis. My hypothesis is that people who don't like to speak out at work, they don't want to share their ideas. It could be because they don't feel in a safe environment, but it could also be that they're too worried about what they and what other people think about their ideas. And what does that lead to? It leads to disengaged and uninterested employees. Because if we are sharing ideas and collaborating on a problem, then we own that problem. So as an individual, if you want to matter at work, and if you want to spend like however many hours you spend in your lifetime at work and not have it completely suck and be terrible all the time, then you need to start taking the risk at standing up. I mean, the alternative is staying in a job and just punching a clock until whenever that happens. So don't do that for yourself. Stop editing your ideas yourself. Start taking small, tiny risks, looking at the outcomes and what is the worst that's going to happen if I share my idea today on this initiative we're doing. Worst case, people think it's a bad idea, but at least I'm known for someone who has an idea and that's willing to contribute and willing to fail. And if everybody does that, including the managers that lead the teams, you'll start building an environment where people are more willing to share and collaborate on ideas and take ownership of them. So the trick is stretch your comfort zone without snapping it and speak out and speak up, because life's short. We need to make sure that we're making a difference when we're here in this world. Stop listening to your inner critic. Use some objective risk mitigation as far as what's the worst that's going to happen if I speak out, or how should I speak out so that this is taken seriously, and just start doing it, because the only way to get better at something is to practice. So those are my thoughts on my hump day hypothesis, is that people don't speak out at work because they're afraid of being judged, but ironically, they're being judged for not speaking out and become inconsequential. Don't be inconsequential, be amazing. So let me know what you think about this live. If you're watching the replay, send me a note or type a comment, and let me know what you do to speak out at work and what you do to try to make sure that you're standing out in a way that helps you be seen, but not ridiculed.